All right, Thwaites is a happy man. The Avalanche are into the Stanley Cup Finals. We're hoping the New York Rangers join them soon. The NBA Finals are in full swing. It's 3rd and 5. Gents, welcome into 3rd and 5. Simon Hampton here with James Thwaites and Dave Rice on the Zoom, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. Gents, things are heating up a bit at the moment. We're, Stanley Cup is just around the corner. The playoffs there are having a good time. The NBA Finals are in full swing. I thought it was kind of funny. I went to the pub with Dave to watch the Rangers game the other day, and I was having a frozen margarita watching ice hockey on the sidewalk, which is a little bit of a
classy man.
Yeah, it's frozen marg season. But you guys good?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, this is usually the highlight of my week, but last night seeing the Avs sweep the Oilers was a pretty big highlight. But I think my main highlight was on Saturday. I decided to look for some more guest stars after having Ryan Fox on. I indulged in legitimately 18 beers and sent about 40 messages from the 3rd and 5 Instagram account trying to get some people on. Some people responded, other people did not, but that was a bit of a...
Nonetheless, it's a 3-person podcast this week still.
You send 40 athletes you up message, and you're not going to hit with everyone.
Yeah, that's the one. I woke up with some regret the next morning, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. And actually, I'm on standby at the moment with my wife due to give birth. Yesterday was the due date, so I guess the baby girl wanted to wait till we recorded this pod this week before arriving. But can't complain. Drinking mother's milk, Modelo.
So I heard a rumor that you're going to be naming your kid Valerie after Valerie Adams in honor of one of New Zealand's greatest athletes. Is there any truth to these rumors?
The joke, to be fair, has been
it's Jasmine,
because obviously it's Jasmine. While we don't have a name that we're disclosing, Jasmine's kind of the Voldemort, where that obviously has some good dad joke aspect.
Just call your fucking kid Voldemort, mate, and be done with it.
Yeah.
Voldemort Rice. Jasmine Rice.
We've got a few names. For passport reasons, we'll be getting that sorted pretty quickly afterwards. But so maybe next week I might not be available. We'll have to see what happens. But in the meantime,
good. One of those DMs will come back and we're going to have a guest host, I'm sure. Maybe it'll be the one of the Blink 182 singer. I think that's the list of targets reached pretty far and wide.
Actually, Thwaites, can you please explain why you messaged? Was it Travis Barker?
Yeah, I messaged all of them.
But let's explain what the basis for messaging Blink 182 drummer and I believe husband of one of the Kardashians.
Yeah, probably about 17 beers was the reason why. But no.
What was the connection?
Basically, Colorado Avalanche have this real cool tradition where they basically play all the small things at Ball Arena, which is the old Pepsi Center in Colorado. So everyone just sings it. It goes absolutely nuts. It's incredible live. So I wanted to get on one of the Blink 182 guys just to talk about the impact that their songs had there. Unfortunately, no response from any of them, but fingers crossed.
I think we have to probably get a blue tick next to the name before it probably gets siphoned into different categories of hiddenness.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I'm sure Cy can help us out with that with his journalist connections. But it's been a pretty fucking wild week, apart from my drunken messaging to superstar global athletes. We had Quinn Snyder, head coach of the Utah Jazz, decide to leave, which pretty much throws that whole Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert situation into even more turmoil. Apparently, it caught Donovan Mitchell off guard. Rumors are coming out that Kyrie Irving is going to extend with the Nets, which we kind of thought he would. Didn't really see a situation where he walked from them. James Harden, contract negotiations are getting in full swing. He's going to make a decision about his player option before the end of the month. So there's already chat. There's going to be a 4-year deal there. So RIP Philly. Yeah, they're going to.
So not a max deal.
Well, basically, it turns into a 4-year because I think it's 4-year on top of the player option.
Oh, so he'll
exercise
the player option, and then gotcha.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. NFL is starting to heat up. Mini camps are in full swing. OTAs.
Yeah, and I mean NFL's getting there, but that's still a while away. I think that for me that it was the rugby news was the sort of spicier news, which I wouldn't necessarily think when it comes to sports in America that would be the one that kind of draws some headlines. I mean, it's still small in the scheme of things, but.
So just to run through that, so the LA Guiltinis and that, what a name by the way, and the Austin, whatever the Austin team, Gilgronis. So they both sound like dodgy cocktails.
Austin are top.
They're owned by
the same owner.
Which is fucking. They're named after 2 shitty cocktails. What fucking awful names! I was giving the Predators shit the other week. That's by far the worst.
Both teams are named after. It's got the connection to the owner's name. I think Gilgronis is like it's the surname mixed with like a cocktail. And
Negroni, mate.
Negroni.
Yeah. And then
popular cocktail.
What do you think a Guiltini's named after, mate? I'll give you a clue.
No. The Gilgronis, bro. They've got it's like a dragon. It's like a dragon. But anyway, they were both the top teams of is it the West or East? Must be the West. So they were 1 and 2. So that's like.
That's surprising. The LA team is basically the Wallabies from 2008. I think Adam Ashley Cooper, Drew Mitchell, Matt Giteau, maybe a couple of others.
Quade Cooper was floating around for a bit as well.
He's been around helping training and stuff, I think. With them.
I don't think he's got a contract, but he's definitely training for a few teams. But it's kind of spicy news, and
it's not great for it. It's not great. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not life-changing news, but it's not great for when you're trying to build the profile and build the sort of the league up, and then you've got that sort of that sort of turmoil. I mean, I'm just not going to kill the league by any means, but it's
good. Good of the league. Good of the league to enforce it though, as well.
Yeah, and it does go to show like how sensitive salary caps are, like with these emerging leagues, because you got people who can just flout them or get their mates to come in and do kind of like mate rates deals and kind of stuff like that. Yeah, and like I think anyone that's into rugby in the US, like people in the Reddit forums for Major League Rugby were pretty pissed off because this news came out, I think, over a week ago, and everyone knew it, but the league didn't mention anything about it. And there was rumors that there was a third team. We probably won't dive into who that third team is, that may have flouted it, but only those 2 have been kicked out. So, oh well. The other kind of unsurprising news is probably, which is NFL related, is Jimmy Garoppolo's not turned up to training camp for the 49ers, which is unsurprising. Baker Mayfield is obviously not turned up as well for the Browns, but the Browns are in a lot of trouble now with Deshaun Watson. There was a New York Times article that came out today that basically Deshaun Watson booked 66 different massage appointments over 17 months. So his case is looking awful. I'm not going to be surprised if the NFL comes out in the next kind of 1 or 2 weeks and just suspends him for at least a season. But this looks terrible on the Cleveland Browns. They obviously gave him, I think it was a $230 million guaranteed deal over 5 years or something stupid. So they just look like an awful organization.
They are an awful organization as well. That's not just what they look like. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know what more there is to really say about that particular story other than, it's
guilty.
The interesting thing with the Baker there, to me, I think without doubt, Deshaun's missing, if not the whole season, a large chunk of it. What is actually interesting is, does Baker Mayfield, because end of his day, his stocks aren't super high, rightly or wrongly. End of the day, he was stitched up. He was made to play injured, which didn't help his sort of, like how the teams will think of him. But, does he, because end of the day, he's going to be better than whoever the other backup is at the Browns. Do they sort of come together and be like, well, we need a quarterback for the season, and just kind of like a 1-year deal where, you have a good season. That's only going to help you. It's an interesting aspect. I'm sure you won't, but
and like the reason for it, Dave, like I like where your head's thinking, but I think like that relationship's just fucked at this point. But like beyond that, for Baker Mayfield, who's fairly young and probably could get a starting gig somewhere else in the NFL at like a price that isn't his current price, that's the problem, and that's where it sits at the moment. Take you a 1-year deal. If you break your leg, you snap an ACL or whatever, like, you know, you're not coming back, or if you are, you're probably taking a minimum. But like, I mean, he's better than Sam Darnold, and you know, I reckon he could probably challenge Jameis Winston down in the Saints a bit, but. And, you know, obviously we know about the Seahawks, but we just need to wait this one out. But he's not going back there this season. He's leaving them on red.
I see the argument for it. I see the argument for it where it could benefit him just in that regard. Like it's only one sort of side of things. And as you say, you as a quarterback have to have a good relationship with not just the manager or the coach, but like, you know, all the sort of key staff. And I mean, that sort of relationship's been completely burned for sure.
And he's got to eat a lot of humble pie as well and go back on that. And these sorts of guys don't really like doing that too often. So, but yeah,
will he still be on the progressive ads?
The 49ers?
Will he still be doing the new progressive ads, or is he going to be less
This is going to be interesting. I can't wait. He does a series of ads over here where he goes into the Cleveland Stadium. So I wonder if they'll go off. But yeah, Simon, like you were saying, Deebo Samuel turned up, so it looks like they'll obviously get a deal, but DK Metcalf did not turn up.
Yeah.
So,
mate, as a Cowboys fan, do not, you know, that every year for the last few years, it's either been, you know, it was Dak and then it's been Zeke. These guys just want to get paid, so they just use this to flaunt their.
It's just leverage.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Just because they're not turning up doesn't mean they're not, you know, suiting up.
I think the only couple of people that I've ever seen, like in recent memory, Le'Veon Bell did it. Where he sat out obviously like an entire season, and then whoever was ahead of Austin Eckler at the Chargers, he was a running back, he sat out for probably a good 10 weeks or something like that before returning back, trying to get a deal. But yeah,
it's an odd thing to do to miss, given it's not like baseball or basketball where you've got a very long season. Sitting out 10 games, you've only got a few games to get before playoffs if you're in that mix.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm excited. You know, the preseason schedule got released today for the NFL, so that all kicks off in August. So got some good stuff coming down the pipe.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. But let's get things rolling and lead off with some NBA Finals chatter. So pretty good game one. Game two was a bit of a blowout in the Warriors' favour. So we're 1-1 heading back to Boston. Wednesday night, US time, Thursday afternoon, New Zealand time. I mean, obviously the Warriors really came out and responded to that after that kind of embarrassing first game where they flew out in the fourth quarter and the Celtics got super hot. But who do we? I think I still lean Boston overall going home at 1-1. I think before the series they would they would have loved that coming out of Golden State. So I think I'm still leaning Boston in this series.
Yeah, I think Boston getting one away gives them. It's like in tennis, it's the early break, right? So that's a huge sort of victory there, and particularly when you're the team that only gets 3 home games, assuming it goes that deep. So they've got the ascendancy there. You know, basically the way to look at it is if they win out at home, they win. That's a really simplistic way of looking at it. I think. For me, looking at the 2 games, now that we've got the sort of hindsight of it, when you actually look at them, there's been 8 quarters so far. 6 of those quarters, I mean, you could probably disregard the fourth quarter in game 2 because the game was over. But of the other sort of 7 quarters, 5 of them have been close, right? It's basically been a quarter blowout in both games that decided it. So there isn't much in it in both games. Like it's been tight. Like I think game 2, it might have been like 2 points in it at halftime.
Spot on, and then 35-14.
And then that's when Jordan pulled the shot of the finals, probably the shot of the playoffs, where it wasn't just that, he just got a halfway, not nearly halfway shot. It was the fact that he had already scored a 3, they got a stop, and he just got a ridiculous 3 at the end that just, it was absolute game over. If it wasn't already, that was just, an absolute dagger.
And one thing that drives me nuts, and I've been saying it to my wife, like the entire postseason, with some of these teams that are so close, you got to chuck up those Hail Marys at the end of the half, end of the quarter. Just got to fucking go for it, because like a lot of the time, like you said, Dave, like there was 2 points in it at half in that game. If you do get one of these like miracle threes, like fucking amazing, it's totally worth it, even if it does fuck up the stat sheet slightly.
Do you know what's crazy about? Do you know what's crazy about that shot though? Like with the Warriors, it didn't feel like a Hail Mary. Like he actually kind of positioned himself, sort of pivoted, and even though it was like not far from halfway, it was like a normal shot. And so these guys, Steph, Clay, like these well documented like shooting stars, but they probably practice those sort of shots. So it wasn't like a running, on the move, shooting it from halfway, which is a true Hail Mary. That felt more like a, he's probably 50-50 on getting that.
Yeah, and it was interesting as well. So I think, I don't have the exact stats in front of me. I think it was 39-foot 3-pointer, which was huge. I think it was the second, technically third, like longest 3-pointer ever in an NBA Finals. Mario Chalmers, I think, who used to play for the Heat back in, I think it was 2011, got a 40-footer. And one of the announcers, actually, commentators, Mark Jackson, I think it was, had the other 40-footer in a final. But I think exactly like you said, Dave, like every single quarter in these final series has been close, apart from like these blowouts. And like with game 2, it was the third quarter where Boston scored 14, Golden State got 35. And in game 1, it was the fourth quarter where Boston just absolutely went nuts, came back and won that game. I think the interesting thing for me watching game 2, which is obviously in Chase Center in SF, was one, seeing how much more animated Draymond Green was with everything. He was really like making an effort to get up into people's faces more than normal, cause some shit, just really kind of wreak havoc there. But also just kind of how bad the Celtics were shooting, which highlights how good the Golden State Warriors defense was. Tatum was 8 for 19, field goals, 28 points. Jaylen Brown was 5 for 17 for 17. The rest of their starters, Horford, Williams, and Smart, each had 2 points each, which was fucking awful. White coming off the bench, he was 4 for 13. It's going to be interesting because it just feels like a tale of two games here. Pretty much what Boston did to Golden State Warriors in the first game, Golden State Warriors did to Boston in the second game. So, like you said, going to the TD Garden, hostile environment, I expect them to bounce back. I really want Tatum to be more consistent. This has obviously been a problem. We spoke about this with Ben Vines 2 weeks ago. Tatum needs to be more consistent, but also some of those supporting players, like we need more from them.
This is kind of what can happen in this series, right? Where they are two teams that can get very hot and blow a team away. And you're spot on. In game 1, it was Al Horford, and game 2, it's the Warriors, and we've seen that plenty of times over the years. So I kind of hope that we don't get a quarter like that necessarily in the next couple of games, and things hold tighter.
I'm pretty sure as well. I was having a quick scan there. The Celtics weren't unbeatable at TD Garden. I'm pretty sure they've definitely dropped games in all series, not against the Nets because they swept them, but in the semi-finals and Eastern Finals, I'm pretty sure they dropped a game at home to both the Heat and the Bucks. So by no means are they, like it's some cauldron where the Warriors can't win. And as we know, and as we've seen in both games, like it's the team that gets hot, and that's probably, and it just has to be happening in one quarter. And that's probably going to be a big factor. What was quite interesting that they talked about in the game, and I'll be interested to get you guys' thoughts on this, and even just to the wider just sports in general. There was a moment where Draymond Green, who had already had a tech, this is game 2, him and Jaylen Brown got tangled up, and then like they basically
pulling his pants down, right?
Yeah, and then Draymond Green kind of like. So this, and I'm talking about that basically, and this was, the commentators were talking about it, and they were bang on where if this wasn't, just take away the situation, like if you're officiating it like you have all season, that's a tick to both players, like no question, and I don't think anyone would argue that. However, the sort of, they had like an expert analyst, former official who said that he would be mindful of the fact that Draymond Green had already had a tick, so he would have that factored into his mind and would not give it a tick because it wasn't really bad. And I thought, I mean, I support that. He's basically you're not officiating to the letter of the law. You're taking the game situation. I mean, it's pretty polarizing. I think some people would disagree, and it should be just black and white. What do you guys think about effectively swaying based on the match situation in terms of who's on a tick or who, if we use the rugby terminology, who's on a yellow card?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point because obviously, you don't want to take anything away from the game, but the rules are the rules, right? I'm a bit of a stickler for the rules, but it is what it is. You can't argue yourself around it. It probably should have been a tick. I mean, I just don't know. It did look worse on replay. One of the problems I always find with professional sports as well is commentators sway you a lot, especially with American sports. I tend to watch NFL quite a lot, just with the commentators muted the entire game because they just sway you into being oh, there was pass interference, that wasn't. I feel like it'd be interesting to go back and look. I don't know if that was me, I don't know if I'd give Draymond a tick for that. It felt like they're playing this series a bit slightly harder than probably regular season basketball, and there was some bullshit as well throughout the game with Draymond Green basically just shoving people out of the way. I don't know if I'd give him a tick for that though. I do agree though that they're playing this a bit looser. They're letting them get away with a bunch more stuff.
Yeah, and then the flip side is Draymond Green should not be putting himself in that situation, but he's obviously the guy. He's kind of we'll call him the PJ Tucker from last year, right? He's the guy that's playing on that sort of edge because he's that physicality. He's the in-your-face sort of guy. So he's not going to stop doing that. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
It's really interesting as well because Draymond Green is probably going to go down as one of those guys in history, where you're you just had to be there to see it. Because you look at the stat sheet, him in game 2, 35 minutes, 2 from 3 field goals, missed a 3-pointer, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 9 points. That's not super exciting. Technically, if you're looking down the stat sheet, probably Looney outperformed him and a whole bunch of others, and some guys off the bench. It's the way he fucking just gets in people's minds. I'm not even playing the game. I'm watching it on TV and he's fucking me off. He is great at just winding people up, and it's such a good skill to have.
It's hugely valuable. Have you guys? I can't remember who we picked for this series, but has your stance changed? Do you think overall? Just quickly before we move on.
Yeah, so I went Warriors in 7. I did actually have. I don't mention this, but I did think it was going to be 2-2 after 4, and that both teams would win away. I just sort of had that sense, so I kind of backed that it's going to be 2-2 after 4. So that means that the Warriors are going to have to get one away.
Boston lost 2 to the Bucks and 2 to the Heat at home. So 4 games at home they've dropped.
Yeah, I mean that's as many as they've had at home. So
yeah,
I think I'm probably, after seeing game 1, I've got more faith that the Celtics can definitely get up. I picked the Warriors, but I could, I'm probably more on the fence now, and it could really go either way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I initially picked maybe Celtics in 7. I can't remember. I definitely picked the Celtics. I just can't remember whether it was 6 or 7, but I feel like that's still right. I feel like it's just going to be one of those grindy games where you just go down to the wire and then flip a coin, and it's going to fall one way or the other. So I've liked what I've seen out of both teams in both games though, and they just seem to have the right coaching staff in there to make adjustments after what they've seen, which is good to see.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't much of a coin flip in the NHL in the Avalanche Oilers series, Thwaites. 4-0 to the Avs. They're off to the Stanley Cup. How hype are you?
I'm so incredibly hyped. We're actually out there. We're going to Colorado on the 17th, so we're going to be there while the Stanley Cup's on. So,
are you going to get to a viewing party, or what's the?
My wife and her dad are going to go, so that's going to be awesome. we were kind of sitting there, and I mean, they're lifelong Avs fans. And well, obviously ever since they've been in Colorado, so it made sense for them to go. I think I'd be happy going to any Stanley Cup game, to be honest myself. So, so those two will go. They're going to have a great time, which is awesome. I'm just stoked to be there. There's a couple of watch parties and stuff on, so maybe we'll get to one of those. But what a dominant display. That first game as well, like whereas I think it was 8-6 or something like that, 14 goals in game one between the Oilers and the Avs. And then there's obviously been a lot of shit going on with Kadri. Kadri actually got injured by Evander Kane in game three. For those of you that don't know too much about hockey, Evander Kane is one of the biggest pieces of shit you could ever describe. He's got sexual assault allegations, insider gambling, like all that kind of stuff. He got dropped from his last team. Oilers picked him up. And he's just an asshole. Like, he's just on there. He's like cross-checking people the entire game. He's trying to like bait people into fights all the time. He's an outstanding hockey player. He's just not a great guy. So he injured Kadri's thumb. I think it was broken. He had to have surgery, so he's definitely out for this series. Hopefully he's back for the Stanley Cup final. Kadri got suspended, so he didn't play game 4. Whatever. Bye-bye. It's great to see a sweep happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's about as good a summation as I'm going to be able to offer. But I mean, yeah, I've had a bit more of a focus watching the Rangers games, but certainly in the bits I saw, the Avs just threw out and just looked a lot better. And maybe I think was it game 3? Maybe the Oilers sort of started a little bit stronger and looked like they might be able to make that one closer. But ultimately, it's pretty clear that the Avs were a far stronger side.
I think the Oilers in both games at home, game 3 and 4, were ahead for big chunks of the game. Yep. So like they had the opportunities that could have made it 2-2, but Avs proved that they were the better side and sort of the key moments in that sort of final period and in overtime last night got the cash.
Yeah, and it definitely didn't go how I thought it would be. I definitely thought that the teams were a bit more even than obviously like the stat line for the series was. I thought Colorado's defense was slightly better than the Oilers, but which was definitely true. Cale Makar, though, for the Avs was just outstanding, and then Confer has just been an absolute goldmine for that series. But so now we kind of like turn over after watching that. We wait and see who the Avs will get in the Stanley Cup final. So first 2 games will definitely be in Colorado at Ball Arena, again, the ex-Pepsi Center. So that'll start either on the 15th of this month or the 18th, and that'll just depend on the length of the Rangers Tampa Bay series. So kind of looking over to that, we want the series to go longer. I don't know who I'd want to get through. I think the Avs could definitely beat either of those teams, but either of those teams are just defensive powerhouses. Like their goal tending is just incredible. So we'll see. We've obviously got a game tonight for the Rangers against Tampa Bay. I think it's in Tampa Bay again.
It's in Tampa.
It is. I mean, so the Rangers went up 2-0 in the series, which was to the surprise of quite a few. And we'll recall that, Waits, you predicted Tampa Bay in 5 in the series. So, and then could well have gone up 3 because they were up 2-0 in game 3, and then Tampa Bay pulled back and then eventually won it with 8 seconds to go. But the Rangers have been surprisingly good this series.
They've sort of got better as well as the playoffs have gone on. I mean, I think a lot of people when we're on here that I was being patriotic as someone that just lives here, that they'd beat Pittsburgh, but I think most people probably would have backed Pittsburgh to get through the first round, and they've just kind of continued to sort of surprise and kind of grow as the sort of players have gone. And I mean, I think you're right. I don't think the Avs probably will have a preference. I don't think that probably matters to them. They'll back themselves to be the better side, but certainly we'll be hoping for the Rangers to get through, and I think they're in a good spot. They looked very strong in the 2 games at home. And again, that's similar to what I said with the Celtics. They're in control a little bit of their own destiny in terms of having that home crowd and getting buoyed by that sort of home support, which is huge at MSG. They'll be through if they can take care of those games.
Yeah, and kind of like as always, I come in with some spicy takes, and a lot of the time they don't come through. Dave, like I remember way back when we were talking about our predictions for the Stanley Cup, and I was like, you were like, oh, they're gonna get past Pittsburgh. And I was like, nah, you're a fucking idiot. Like they're gonna get done. They obviously got through. Then they took care of Carolina, the Hurricanes, and now they're here winning the first two home games, which is incredible. So good on them. Love a good underdog. But I do want Tampa Bay to win tonight because I really need that first game, that game one of the Stanley Cup Finals, to be on Saturday the 18th rather than the 15th. Otherwise, we're going to miss those games in Colorado, which would be a bit gutting.
So based on what we've seen, do you think the Avs are favourite? Will be favourite for the Stanley Cup Finals?
Fuck yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I would say like probably like in 6, depending who they get.
So Simon, we were at the pub having the frozen margs on Sunday. We actually spoke about, so if the Rangers get through, we were sort of turning our mind back to the last time a New York / New Jersey, in the case of football, teams made their respective finals: Stanley Cup, Super Bowl, World Series. What am I missing? NBA finals.
And it would be the Giants, right?
Was it the 20?
No, it's the Mets in 2015. Mets in 2015.
Really? Were they in the World Series? Wow.
Well, New York City FC won the MLS Cup in 20
last year.
Last year it was 2021. Well,
yeah.
It was even more recent than I thought. But yeah, I think there's not been out of the big four. There's not been many at all.
No, obviously we've got like the glory years of the Giants, where Eli won 2 Super Bowls, I think, against the Patriots.
Yeah, but that's 2011. I think was the last one of those. So it's quite a while ago. I think as well the Rangers as well made a finals, didn't they? But didn't win it. Sorry.
Yeah. At some point.
Was that 14-15 as well? I think it was similar time to the Mets. And then the Yankees haven't been in the World Series for 12 years. So
2009.
So they've definitely underperformed. It's been a pretty lean spell, because even what we're saying, that those were the times they last made the finals. They didn't even win those respective finals. So
it's kind of interesting though, because I think like obviously like this is definitely a topic for another day, but one of the first things that comes to mind is like the distance between some of these like playoff series where you're going actually like deep, because the thing that screams out to me is like you're talking about that is probably how hard it is to like go deep in an NBA championship, because the Knicks like have not done it properly since what, the 90s.
To the finals or to the? I doubt they made the NBA finals. The problem with the Knicks, the best era they've had in our lifetime, we've spoken this before, was on the back of Patrick Ewing, and it was just an era when that was obviously dominated by the Bulls.
Yeah, which 90s.
Anyway, let's keep it moving. It is a good topic.
Go ahead.
About the potentially one day we can do a topic on cities with the longest sporting droughts or something. But turn our attentions to baseball now, and we're about just over 2 months into the season. And speaking of good times for New York fans, the Yankees and Mets are top of their respective divisions, having fantastic seasons at the moment. The Yankees are up again tonight over the Twins. They just seem to keep finding a way to win. Guys, can you see this success for these two teams lasting?
What was kind of interesting, I was looking at some stats for Aaron Judge, and how many home runs is he on now? It's so easily
22nd tonight.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy, because I remember going to the Red Sox Yankees game right at the beginning of the season. And I was like, surely the Yankees have done the right thing, not by signing Aaron Judge. He's probably going to have a pretty average year again. He's an injury concern, and he's obviously leading the entire league in home runs, and he's looking like he's not slowing down at all. Obviously, the Mets as well, like they had some injury concerns earlier in the season. Seem to have done all right, considering that they may be going down the Memphis Grizzly route with performing well without some of their star players. But I don't know. Like, I'm just excited to see where this goes. I feel like the Yankees have a bit of a point to prove. It's obviously a pretty historic franchise. They obviously went through those golden years as well. They've got however many World Series wins. So I'm pretty excited to keep watching the Yankees. Mets, I just don't hold out much hope. I've just seen them over the years just start off great and then just absolutely let themselves down and just end up nowhere. So fingers crossed.
I think with the Mets, like, and Simon, you're more of an expert than me on this, but they've got a few real like bad injury concerns that that guys are without in the bullpen, and if they go deep into a playoff run, I think these guys could be towards the end of the regular season, these guys could be back, and so that's what really makes them dangerous is if they can kind of stay where they are or stay in that sort of top few positions in the league, they're only going to get stronger at the back of the season. Obviously, these guys might not be able to just come back and hit the ground running, but if they can, like on paper, they're going to be hugely dangerous. They're obviously going to have to get through the Dodgers, who are, probably everyone's favorite to win the whole World Series this year. But yeah, I mean, the Mets are tricking very well.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, the two guys are Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, who are basically two of the best pitchers in the game. So you're right. Like if you go into a 7-game series and you can get those two starting, you can line up three or four of those games, then they're in a really good position to win in every game that they're starting. And they've got an owner who's shown no like restraint in terms of pursuing players. He open checkbook basically. So I'm sure they'll be making trades at the deadline to get better. But it's pretty tough. I think, yeah, in terms of which New York side is the best at the moment, I mean, the Yankees probably have a better record and they've got fewer injury concerns. So I'd sort of trust the Yankees a little bit more. But to Thwaites' point, I think it's just going to be a fun summer. I think the Yankees can probably expect some regression a little bit. Like they're on pace to win like 117 games, which a baseball team basically never does. But it's going to be a fun summer when the Yankees are in the hunt, and then hopefully come October we're going to have some playoff baseball. But things are just going super well for them. You look out west, you talked about the Dodgers. Well, the other LA team, the Angels, just fired their manager today because they've lost, I think, like 9 out of the last 10, including getting swept by the Yankees last week. So, things just seem to be going well for the New York side at the moment.
I think with the Yankees, what's going best is, and you touched on it earlier, was they're finding ways to win. So offensively, yeah, you've got particularly Judge, on fire. However, when he's been quiet, or when the offense has been quiet, then it's been, the pitchers have been, there was 3 games in a row where they might have given up 1 or 2 hits last week. Like crazy sort of numbers, or the starting pitchers did. So, that's what you want. It's like if you're not getting the the sort of output that game, and that's probably what happens in baseball, is everyone has off days, but they're still finding ways to win and win ugly, and that's kind of goes to any sport. If you can win ugly, then when you're on, then that's why you're going to have a record which is probably near 750.
Well, they've got a bit of both as well, because you're right about the pitching. Like the other night they had back-to-back games. They took perfect games, which is no hits or no base runners basically for the whole game. They took perfect games like into the 6th or 7th inning in back-to-back nights, which is pretty impressive. But they also seem to get clutch hits. Like so often they seem to be tied or down by a run going into the 8th or 9th inning, and someone comes up with a home run. But the other thing is their run differential overall for the season is so much better than anyone else. And that's a good indicator that they are just fundamentally good and better than most teams. So it's sort of been a combination of them being stacked and also getting opportune hits at the right times, and having players pick them up on good days, and pitchers pitching well when the offense is quiet, and the offense hitting well when the pitchers are having a bad day. So
and it's confidence, right? Like it sort of you get used to winning, and it sort of continues on, and so when you get into an extra innings, 10th innings, and you need someone to step up and make that hit to win the game, that's happening, and that's they just sort of feed off each other.
The funny thing with baseball is, like, I remember like getting ready for the season, and you're excited for the season to start, and then already it's like these guys have played like almost 60 games, and the Yankees have a 39-15 record, and you're like, where did all these games go? And so like fast forward 2 months and the Yankees could have a bad run and things could change. But and it does mean you can sort of read too much into small sample sizes and potentially lose a bit of meaning in the regular season games. But certainly things are trending pretty nicely for the Yankees in particular. Quiet nodding heads as we talk about baseball.
Agreed.
From one of my favorite sports to another.
Yeah, well, actually, we're going to talk a bit of golf. I was surprised when this one came up. We're talking a lot of golf at the moment. Apparently Masters ticket application was today. Did you guys apply?
Oh yeah, I applied. I apply every year.
So what are the numbers about getting into that? Is there some stats that can paint a picture of how hard it is to get tickets to this? Is it 1 in 10?
I think your chance. I think I saw, just if you Google it, if someone Googles it quickly now, I think it's something like 0.5%.
Wow. Because a lot of people would go to the Masters. Like, surely they would get like 100,000 people over the week. Yeah, 0.55%.
So what's that? 1 in 200. Chance.
1 in 200. Yeah. So how many people go to the Masters?
Yeah, so I enter it every year because I'm kind of like, I'm not obviously the biggest golf fan, but I would love to go watch the Masters. I think it'd be pretty incredible to go see live. It's obviously pretty historic, like, amazing players go there. Plus, even if you decide not to go, the resale value is fucking huge.
22,000 tickets in the lottery, 2 million applicants.
Yeah, so just to paint a picture, Thwaites is like channeled. He's a true American converted capitalist. Like, he'll go to concerts. So what happens here? Like, I went to a concert, Foo Fighters, last year, and they'll get like local artists to kind of create these very limited edition posters for events. And like, this poster is unbelievable, but I reckon he made like 200. So you now try and buy them. They would have been $20, $30, maybe a touch more if you got them. If you look at them on eBay now, I think $400 is the cheapest one. So it's just like, and so Thwaites loves that stuff, and I respect it, and so that's the thing. He's thinking about the Masters, and even you could do it with the US Tennis Open, get those men's final tickets, because I'm sure you could probably make some bank if you don't want to go.
Probably collected a tidy little salary doing this all year in America.
Yeah, but I applied for the Masters. I actually was thinking about this last night. So when I applied for them, I'd actually prefer one of the practice rounds, which sounds odd, but the problem with going, I've been to a few different golf tournaments. Like, I went to the British Open years ago. I went to the Waste Management in Phoenix. There's just too many people. Like, I can only imagine what the Masters would be like, if you're going on any of the 4 days. So preference would actually be to get one of the Monday, Tuesday, like practice rounds, where you'd actually be able to walk around a lot more, see the action. Yes, it's not a competitive thing going on, but like, you'll then be able to watch on TV that weekend and be like, yeah, being real familiar of where you've been. So I think it's an interesting take, but I kind of prefer that.
So when you apply for these tickets, do you apply for each day and pick a day, and there's you don't get a whole pass for the whole week or the whole week?
No. So you can apply for every day. So the smart option is to apply for every day. You're not buying the tickets then and there. You only get given 1 day. So they'll come back. You've been successful on Tuesday practice day. You don't get, then you either buy that or don't. So yeah, the logical thing is just to apply for every day.
Okay.
Because it can be quite cool. Like, I think one of the days that's practice, it's like all the like past players and current players will play around, sort of quite casual, but they'll have their family as caddies. And I'm pretty sure Jack Nicklaus one year, I think it was at the Masters, his like grandson did the par 3 16 and got a hole in one. So like, it would just be like huge, and so it's kind of a lot more social, but you'd probably get a good chance to actually see the course.
I will say, having been lucky enough to cover a couple of majors in my journalism stuff, I have been out to do practice round stories with golfers, and you're spot on. Like, it is so much, and it's obviously not the Masters, but it is so much easier to move around and just pick and choose where you want to go, and you're not, and get basically unobstructed views of whichever player's shot you want. Obviously, Tiger's probably going to have, still a big crowd, but most of the other guys you can move around pretty happily, which is cool.
Yeah.
But what we were actually meaning to talk about was the Saudi League. So Dustin Johnson's gone there. Obviously, Phil Mickelson's gone there. Ricky Fowler's gone there. Tiger Woods was offered something like $600 million to go there and turned it down. There's some good golfers going there. Are you guys going to watch this though?
No. To me, like it just, I mean, like straight up, like even if you're one of the biggest golf fans in the world, why would you? It's not going to be competitive. It's only a certain amount of people going there. It's obviously a giant cash grab. It's like maybe you watch one or two out of just pure interest to see if there's anything in it. I just don't see this league doing well into the future. So it's going to be a money pit because unless you can grab, the vast majority of the top 50 golfers in the world, why the fuck would you want to watch it? If you're watching like subpar athletes play, like, and I get like some athletes like are going there to try get money and stuff like that, but the overall human rights records and all that kind of stuff should be just reason enough to not do it. So it's people putting money over probably history.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at to be fair, at the moment as it stands, the vast majority, and even the big names, when you say Dustin Johnson and Ricky Fowler, like they're sort of, you could definitely argue that they're potentially getting towards the twilight of their peak part of their career. I mean, Dustin Johnson could definitely, without doubt, compete. But my understanding is he's still looking to play majors, and there's been no sort of comment on whether that's going to be allowed. The thing is, the PGA Tour is.
Wait, did you just say Dustin Johnson? Majors. Sorry, I'm with you.
So the majors. So like the PGA Tour is separate to the majors. So that they have to sort of come out. Like the Masters is their own organization. They have to come out and say whether, if you're playing in that Saudi league, you're banned from the Masters. And also if you've won the Masters, you've got a lifelong exemption. So he's probably banking on, well, you're gonna have to change the rules here, change the goalposts to not allow me to play. So, yeah, like it'll be interesting to see how the product is, because if the product, and what I mean by that is like they're playing kind of like team format, and if they actually kind of, I could imagine these guys might have like be mic'd up a little bit. I could just see them trying to play around with things that just make it a slightly different experience as a fan watching on TV to what it normally is. In that regard, there could be popularity, and I'll probably I wouldn't be saying I'm going to be like changing my plans to make sure I watch it. I don't even know how you can watch it in America yet. They've announced the coverage, but yeah, I'll probably give it a little watch initially to see how it looks. But yeah,
I think like, so one thing that I do hope that comes out of this is for a whole bunch of organizations that have like a monopoly or have like the main kind of like draw cards and things like that, they've basically got a lot of leverage which players don't. What I want to happen over this is more power to the players. I'm pretty sure that was like an EA game slogan or something. But like literally more power to the players, because I think like Ricky Fowler like brought up a really good point when he was talking about why he was going to go there, which is like, hey, there's some things in the PGA Tour that I don't like, which is we don't have the rights to our names and our likeness when we play. So, when we're in the tour. So I kind of get that. Like, PGA Tour, I think, needs to come back to the table, but when they've got a monopoly, it's kind of hard to do. You don't really have any negotiating power.
Yeah, but is the answer to go to a country like Saudi Arabia?
Well, no, the answer is definitely not to go to. I'm not trying to justify it, but something needs to happen. The same thing happened with the NCAA over here in the US, where you've got all these like students and stuff like that go to these colleges, and colleges make millions and millions of dollars out of them and sell their merchandise and all these things like that and their likeness rights, and they get nothing. Like if you're in college in the US, you earn $0. Like that's obviously changed fairly recently, but like the same kind of thing. Like there needs to be a bit of pressure on the PGA Tour. What are they giving back to these players? Because again, as Ricky Fowler said, like they're not employees, but they don't have the rights to their likeness and things like that in their name. The PGA Tour does. So are they individual contractors? Are they employees? Are they not? So I think like honestly the PGA Tour probably should have used this as a chance to like just bring in the players to kind of talk and negotiate a bit, to try and lock out the Saudi league. Obviously some people still would go because money is their prerogative. But I'm not watching it. I don't particularly want to support it. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I do wonder if, maybe the PGA Tour is sort of waiting and seeing how many star athletes go before seeing where they're at and what they need to do. And obviously, right now, they've got a few high-profile guys, but I don't think the field is yet at a point where the PGA Tour will be panicking about losing these guys.
Where you would be, where you're going to see potentially some guys start to look at it is, let's take Dustin Johnson. I mean, he doesn't need any money given he's married to the Gretzky's, but what probably does appeal to him is he can make all that money and only have to play probably a third of the tournaments that he would play. And, he's got a couple of kids who are sort of, I think maybe 8 and 10 or something like that. And that's a selling point to someone that's, a father that's got a family back home where when you're normally on tour on the PGA, think about how often you're at home. You're probably at home for 50 days a year. So by playing this, you could actually be at home, triple that. So that as well, while earning more money. I mean, let's get away. Obviously, there's a lot of things around human rights, and that's pretty well documented. But you got to see that there is that appeal as well to players, not just the fact that they can make more money by playing less.
Get better. Fuck it. I think the other thing is, so anyone that's playing this league, right, can't actually get championship points, so won't be on the world ranking system. Is that correct or no? Or they won't really get enough, out of playing the majors to be ranked in the top 50. So it obviously cancels out things like the Masters and stuff for their future.
Yeah. Except for someone like Johnson, who's played, who's because he's won, he's got a lifetime exemption. But you're right. Unless they can keep playing majors and winning those, effectively the way rankings normally work, I'm pretty sure, Simon, you might know as well, they'll drop off over a period. So if you won the tournament in Phoenix last year, you're not going to play it this year or next year. So the points, you're going to lose a whole lot of points there. It's certainly how it happens with tennis. I assume it's a similar.
Yeah, I would think.
That's got to be a big draw card because, obviously last week on the pod we talked to Ryan Fox, and one of his long-time goals, if not lifelong dreams, is playing in the Masters. So you can see why players like Ryan Fox, even though there's potentially all these allures, but Ryan Fox said to us one of his things is going to the Masters and playing in the Masters, and that's his goal. He's 59th in the world at the moment. Hopefully by year end he's in that top 50. I'm sure he will be. So yeah, honestly, if these people want to jump ship, so be it. We saw obviously the same thing happen with the IPL and whatever that other rogue league that tried starting up over in India.
Shane Bond went and played for them or something.
ICL.
Yeah.
ICL.
Chris Cairns.
Louis.
A lot of the greats.
A lot of the good match fixes.
The greats. Anyway, bit of golf coming up. US Open just around the corner as well. Danny Lee's just qualified as well, so 2 Kiwis in the field, which will be good. And finally, we're going to wrap up this podcast with we're going to move away from the betting section as there's just not heaps to bet on at the moment, and start up a Mount Rushmore segment to wrap things up. And so ideally, the way we see this going is doing a weekly Mount Rushmore of random stuff. We were throwing around top Kiwi musicians to make it in America earlier today, who would be on your top 4 there. So on that theme, we'll do top Kiwi athletes to make it in America. Who would be the 4 athletes you would put on your Mount Rushmore? So I would start by saying probably Steven Adams and Scott Dixon are locks. No debate there.
Nah, fuck off. Not Steven Adams.
You don't reckon?
Nah.
Well, who's three others? 3 others.
Well, you got 4 people. So I think if you're going down the basketball path, Sean Marks is there. Sean Marks won a championship as a player, won a championship as a coach. Now the GM of
12th man on the bench. Steven Adams has been 10 years in the NBA starting and playing 70 odd playoff matches.
Never. Yeah, he probably has less potential fucking playoff games than Sean Marks. He's obviously been to no All-Star appearances, probably the same as Sean Marks. I don't know. I'm going the guy that's got 2 rings over the guy that's got no rings at the moment. Obviously, he's earned more, but I think if you're talking about New Zealand athletes, Sean Marks has done more.
Well, are we including like officials and caddies? Noting one significant caddy that came out of New Zealand.
I mean, we can, but like, do you agree that Sean Marks has done more in the NBA?
I mean, I don't agree that he's done more. I agree that he's won one more, but I don't agree that he's done more. I think Steven Adams has got a far more accomplished playing career than Sean Marks, for sure, hands down.
Okay.
What we're talking here, what it makes such a challenge is these athletes that are in team sports as well.
True.
It is harder. Like, and even think about the Halberg Awards when they do that each year. Pretty much, if it's an Olympic year, it's most likely going to be someone in an individual sport that's going to win that, right? Whether it's a rower or swimmer, Lisa Carrington in the women's every time. Like, so yeah, it's really hard to sort of draw out the value that this, the player has within a franchise. Now, obviously, Sean Marks getting a couple of rings, one as a player, one as a coach, means he's kind of got exactly why you're playing the game. If you put it on earning, Steven Adams, if you put that as a factor, Steven Adams probably has him slightly covered there. And also, Steven Adams, how many times he's kind of made playoffs in different teams, Yeah.
And minutes, he's been a starter for all those teams.
I think Scott Dixon's is a lock. I think we'll all agree on Dixon.
100%. Yeah.
Scott, yeah.
So I'm going to throw a curve.
I mean, I could see a world we. I couldn't. I think within the top, I could see a world we have both Steven Adams and Sean Marks on there. But who are you guys thinking for your other two?
Let's go through some others first.
So here's one that we spoke about, I think, on our very first pod. Ricky Allison, ex-linebacker for the 49ers and the Raiders. First New Zealander to be drafted in the NFL. First New Zealander to win a Super Bowl ring. He's got 3, I believe. Played with Joe Montana at the 49ers. Won a national championship with USC. He is up there.
Yeah.
That's my call. How many New Zealanders do you know play in the NFL? How many, let alone have a Super Bowl ring and a national championship?
What was his I mean, that's great. That's, as the Americans like to call, that's niche. It's hard to argue.
Kiwi, this niche.
Hard to argue with that resume. The only thing that's counting against him, and that's not through fault of his own.
Do you keep knocking wood each time you fucking say it?
No, the only thing that is like anonymity in New Zealand, even.
Oh, totally. But you're talking about the Mt Rushmore of New Zealanders that have performed in American sports. Winning a national championship has got to be like put you right up there. Winning Super Bowl rings in America's game is
was he like probably, was he, we'll call it, as much as you are like a starter?
Yep.
Yeah. And all three, because I'm just looking at him over. He's three-time Super Bowl. So he's in the 49ers in their heyday of the 80s with Montana. 2 Rose Bowls. Mate, you're converting me.
I think I didn't think about it, but
okay.
And this is the hard one because I didn't think you guys would think about this, but I mean, again, he could probably walk down a street in New Zealand and nobody know who the fuck he is. Obviously he's related to Tamati Ellison. He's Tamati Ellison's uncle, but yeah.
That's a good curveball. That's a good one I like. Some of the other ones that I sort of thought of, if we're going down golf, you've got Lydia Ko and Michael Campbell.
Campbell's a good one as well because obviously he won the Masters, didn't he? US Open. Sorry.
And the Players' Championship, which is the unofficial 5th one in the same year.
So that was obvious, and this is interesting as well because Steven Adams definitely puts New Zealand far more on the map than Sean Marks ever did. Michael Campbell probably did the same in golf. Who's this guy from New Zealand that's suddenly winning on the world stage?
I think the thing counting. So Lydia Ko she's spent maybe 2 years, I think, over her career at number 1. she's won. I think she's won the French major, and she's won in the US.
Mhm.
So she's definitely building a really good resume, and she's starting to recapture her form. She's the sort of person, because she's still super young. If we did this in 10 years' time, I think she would 100% be in it. Assuming she can kind of capture a few more majors and really build that legacy. Avoid the Saudi League and whatnot. But so I think I don't know whether I would. It's a tough one because it's hard to put someone that's still so young. I think who's still got so much left. So obviously there's Ko Campbell. I think another one.
And no, that's a good point though. And this is where I kind of thought of like with the whole like Sean Marks, Steven Adams thing in my head is if you came back to this argument in 5 years, you're probably saying like Steven Adams is on that mountain because Steven Adams probably would have a ring by that point. Or at least you'd like to hope that he's gone to a team to try, a competitive team that's potentially winning a championship.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, some other ones. Israel Adesanya.
I would agree.
Another one that's still kind of in his prime or in his, sort of very much in his, like, got plenty of years in him. But, I mean, if you're talking, he's certainly put New Zealand on the map in terms of the UFC, like, and he's probably got the biggest global reach of any sort of athlete, New Zealand athlete right now, not just in America, but certainly America as well.
Well, it's definitely more measurable now as well with social media thing. But like even going back 20 years, like David Tua fought against Lennox Lewis back in 2001. He was a pretty big name over here for a year or two. We could go the Steve Williams path, but I don't know if a caddy can be put up on Mount Rushmore.
Couple of left field ones that I thought
a little bit embarrassing.
David Tua's up there though. Like he had those.
David Tua's up there, yeah.
He had a heavyweight title fight. He fought Lennox Lewis. Pretty sure he fought Tyson at some point. Maybe I'm making that up, but he was up there. I remember that. Like New Zealand went absolutely nuts when that happened.
The only other ones that are kind of, I was trying to think of older generation because it's obviously easier in these situations to kind of focus on the more recent athletes, either still active or very recently active. Bruce McLaren, getting quite out there. The only thing with him is
more European.
He's probably more Europe, and especially when you think about McLaren. But he did win the US Grand Prix. He was the youngest winner. Doing some little Wikipedia stalking there. Another one, Burt Munro. Has anyone else actually had a movie named after him?
Good shout. Anthony Hopkins played him. That's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've all been to fucking Te Papa and seen the car. Like, hey, we're from Wellington. You're not from Wellington, mate. So, like, you're fucking.
Is that car? Is that the car that's at Te Papa, or is it some
the motorbike?
It's the motorbike. It's not the. It's not.
Yeah, the world's fastest.
And then one more that I came up with, which I've dismissed, but he is a 4 times winner of the America's Cup. So Russell Cooks, but again, doing a bit more digging, he won it with a Lingy and what was the other one? Which I'm pretty sure are Europe outfits. I couldn't remember if they were American outfits. I think if it was American, then I might have swayed him because he's probably the biggest name in America's Cup. But I sort of thought of that.
Cool. I was thinking about the runners like Peter Snell and John Walker and whether they spent enough time in America. They didn't win their gold medals at the Olympics in America, at American Olympics, but I know back then a lot of the running, those guys would have been based in America probably and spent a lot of time around here, and running was definitely very big over here, particularly back then.
Snell's a good option, a good shout in that regard.
Bob Charles, his major was the British Open, so but again, he would have been all around America playing on the PGA Tour.
So how do we?
What about New Zealand? I mean, there's obviously some like New Zealand soccer players and stuff that do well in the US now, but I just don't know if those leagues are competitive enough for me to want to put them on Mount Rushmore.
I would put Ryan Nelson. Yeah.
Winton Roof is our goat from a football point of view, and he played all in Europe.
Ryan Nelson played a lot here, but it's not enough to like move the needle against these other guys we're talking about. I don't think.
it would be if Ryan Nelson kind of came as the MLS was building, and it was a big part of like growing it, and the impact or legacy there, you could argue, but that's
So Scott Dixon's a lock. Let's try and settle on this here. So we've got Scott Dixon. Are we all?
Ricky Ellison's a lock.
I think we're all coming around on Ricky Ellison here.
I like
Deserves more kudos in New Zealand as well. I think he needs to be more recognised.
Are we going to put for the socials? Are we going to kind of superimpose these guys' faces?
I'm not going to be able to do that, but I don't know, Dave. You any good at graphics?
It doesn't have to look good. It can look like a 5-year-old.
It's going to look fucking terrible, but it's just going to be an MS Paint job. But
just make them all look like South
with
Park
characters. With our far reach, this could make Ricky Ellison, sort of really put on the map in New Zealand when people see him down the local.
Hey, look, maybe he's actually related to me in some way, so I hope him or either his son respond to my messages. Because
he also got
Saturday night
at 2 a.m. That's
Ricky,
slid into the old
message
second
me back, mate.
DMs.
Message me back, mate. Don't leave me on scene.
Okay, so we're saying Ricky Ellison, Scott Dixon. We can't have everyone, so we got to think.
Are we doing a combat fighter and
basketball?
doing David Tua or Adesanya? Or like what?
I'm going Adesanya. More relevant now. UFC is obviously much bigger now than boxing, I think, is now. He's got more championships. David Tua probably never won a championship, so might have been a bit more of a flash in the pan.
The black mark on Tua is he, as you say, really grew the game and grew boxing in New Zealand for sure, and he was huge for us. But I think he had to win the title, and it was a bit of a disappointing fight from his perspective. Got dominated.
So if we're going a fighter, we're going Israel, but I'm still unsure because I think Michael Campbell's a really good shout.
Yeah, so do I. Like
to hold off Tiger in his prime in the US Open.
My problem with Campbell is he had like however long his career was. It was really like a 1 year like where he kind of, and obviously it's like no one else has done that, sure, but it was not a lot around it. So does that tarnish him as a?
For me, I just think like that put on the map in America. He would have been all over ESPN during that time. Everyone would have known him, and I don't think any real Kiwi athletes, even Ricky Ellison, Stephen Adams, these guys, they wouldn't have had at any point the recognition that Michael Campbell had after he won the US Open. So I would probably lean towards putting Michael Campbell on there.
So if we go Dixon, Ellison, Campbell, so we're saying Campbell over Lydia Ko as well, and is that more of a like because Ko's still young, probably still got some that could change?
I feel like Ko's gonna get up there. Same with Stephen Adams eventually, but I
feel like
I actually would lean towards no Adams and Marks, by the way.
Who would you do over them then?
So we're saying Dixon, Ellison, Campbell. I'd probably put Adesanya over both of them, and then my boy Burt Munro, who we're probably not going to include. But why not Adesanya?
Over some of this one, I mean, like maybe Adesanya, but
Adesanya is also young and got plenty more to achieve. Oof.
All right.
This is tough. It must be easier one. We'll do an easier topic next time.
So who have we got? We got Dixon, we got Ellison, we got Campbell,
and
we got Adesanya.
Adesanya is the fourth. So there's a few goodies getting lift off there.
I reckon like all three of those, I would chuck Marks in there and then flip a coin on some of them.
Yeah, Marks, Adams. Oof. All right. We'll go Adesanya and we'll put it on social media, and if you disagree, we can, hear it. But,
all right.
And then we'll blame Dave because Dave.
We'll blame Dave.
Yeah.
What's happening in there? We need to go. Watch the rest of the Rangers game.
I've got a connection to Adesanya, so I had to sort of go with him. My cousin-in-law.
You related to him?
You can't drop this just as
stop recording.
Cousin through marriage, I guess is what you'd call it. As his coach.
Yeah, well,
so
Just hit his DMs, mate.
Why am I drunkenly messaging people to try to get them on the pod? You should fucking
Give me your
have a few more Modelo's and fucking get on the pod, mate, and just start messaging people. Come on. God damn it, Dave. Just a disappointment to us.
All right, sweet guys.
All right, gents. Good podcast. We'll be back next week, maybe with an interview, maybe with about 40 interviews, depending on who gets back to host. But we'll see what happens. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.